Season 4, Episode 6 of Ear Hustling Podcast, Advice to Your Younger Self. I am Soleil. This week I'm joined by James and Eric. How are you doing today, James? How was your weekend?
I'm doing better. As I share with you all, I believe I had the flu. I didn't officially get diagnosed, but it was a rough few days. But I'm finally feeling somewhat normal, not 100%, but I definitely feel a lot better today than I did the last week. So I'm getting there.
Nice. How's the weather in Georgia?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. It was 74 today. I actually talked to our good friend Eric here, and it got chilly when I talked to him. It was 72 when I talked to him. So I was in my shorts and my t-shirt, outside by the lake, just getting a little fresh air. But that's my first time being out since Friday, so I needed it. But it was nice and sunny. It was beautiful. How about there, Soleil?
How about me? It was like 75 degrees today.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
got to sit out. I sat outside on my patio and listening to birds sing and the sunshine. And it was really nice.
That's beautiful.
Starting to get beautiful in Vegas for a few months, and then it's going to get scorching hot.
That's beautiful. Beautiful weather is a beautiful thing. Let's flip over to Eric. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
James, shut up. I'm trying to think who was it. I think that might have been Dave Chappelle was like, you know what, you hate talking to your friends and staying warm weather climates during the winter. And I understand, exactly what he's saying. I'm not going to say it to Soleil, but I can't stand you because you have a tendency to rub it in.
But here's the thing, though, Eric. People make choices. Soleil and I both were in Detroit, and we made choices. So I'm just saying.
Well, if you remember correctly, I actually made a choice too when I moved down to Texas for a few years. It wasn't my preference to move back, but my wife at the time was missing her family. Her mom was sick, so we moved back over to Detroit, and the rest is history. But that's a story for another day.
Is this where Soleil and I are supposed to feel bad for you? I'm just asking.
Huh?
Is this where Soleil and I are supposed to feel bad for you?
Yeah, don't you?
I don't miss the snow at all or the cold at all. How cold was it?
It was 48 degrees today, so it actually wasn't too bad. But it did start to rain, so it may freeze. There may be some black ice, but other than that, it wasn't too bad.
Cool. Before we get started, neither one of y'all have commented.
I was going to say, I see the pink room. When did you get it done?
I know the last time that we talked, you said that it was getting done. It looks real nice. And why does that clock look like the way that the light just hit it? It just looked like the heavens just opened.
That was all by design.
It looked like Flavor Flav put his clock up over there.
I did it last week. I finally got it done last week since we were off and I had a little bit of time. So yeah, I still want to add some stuff, but I have some pictures and then my little mentees. I mentor. They're adults. They're like CEOs, and one works for the CDC. But I mentor them, and I had them over for brunch on Sunday. And so they did this cute little, Cute little photo shoot for me.
Nice.
And it's pink. So
of course it is.
I'm loved.
So I'd imagine your nail pattern matches your decor. Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Dang, they got longer.
Yeah, I mean they're not breaking, so I'm gonna get them to grow it out as far as I can.
We know we're gonna hear you typing soon.
She's turning into Coco over there from SWV.
Oh, I love her. I would love to have her nails from back in the 90s. Anyway, let's go ahead and Thank you, Shay. She loves the pink room. Um, anyway, let's get started on the show. So we'll be talking about advice to our younger self. But before we do that, since we were off last week, let's catch up on the NBA All Star game. What were your thoughts about the format, about the show, the 3 hours or 5 hours, whatever it was? What were your thoughts? Eric, you can go first.
Too many ads. I wasn't up, but you know what? I was okay with the format. I just didn't like the whole time limit. I didn't like the 40, like the 40 point, score. I didn't like that. So I think that, like the younger guys, the first time All Stars, like Cade, for instance, he was only out there for maybe like what, like 8 or 10 minutes total time. And I just didn't think that it gave the actual All Stars enough time to showcase their talent.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. James?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the tournament, but most important, like Eric said, way too many commercials. You know, it was definitely more commercials than anything else. All Star Saturday night. I'm so done with the dunk contest. But 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 Mac has definitely brought some flair back to it. You know, definitely. But and the cool thing is he keeps bringing it and bringing it and bringing it. So that's awesome. But I could do without the dunk contest at this point. 3-point contest is still great. The skills challenge is okay. I like the fact that names participate in those two competitions. But Shane and I've always said we want to go to a All Star weekend, but it's definitely losing its lackluster for me. Much like the Pro Bowl in football.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
Pro Bowl? What Pro Bowl? Man,
Actually, I thought the Pro Bowl. I watched more of the Pro Bowl. I mean, I did watch the All Star game too, but I thought the Pro Bowl was more entertaining than the All Star game, personally, for basketball.
I haven't watched it in years.
I like the format, but to y'all, both of y'all point, too many commercials, too many stoppages.
Yeah.
Like the stoppages just seem so random. Like it seemed like one team would get like hot and could really build some momentum, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna stop the game for 20 minutes and do something else. And then I'm over Kevin Hart. I like Kevin Hart as a comedian when he's doing roast and stuff, but get him out of my basketball. I mean, his jokes fell flat. Like he would say something and like nobody would laugh. The audience would laugh, and the players went laugh. Shaq went laugh. It was bad. So real quick. Oh, real quick before we move on, and Eric, I see you have a question. But if there's one thing you could change to make it better for next year, what would it be? Eric, I'll start with you since you have something to say.
What would you know what? I would, since we're not getting any big names to participate in the dunk contest, I would just scrap the NBA players. What I would do is that I would get some celebrities to do the dunk contest.
That'd be worse.
No, you know what? You need to go watch some YouTube tapes. There was maybe, I'm probably definitely dating, but Barry Sanders participated in the celebrity dunk contest.
Not this year.
Barry Bonds, Terrell Owens. Man, those are some hell of a athletes.
That was years ago.
Yeah, I'm just what I'm saying. But you get.
They're not doing what Mac. They're not doing what Mac is doing. They're not doing what any NBA player is doing.
You know what? And when I find it, I'll send it to you. So at first I didn't even know that Barry could dunk.
Yeah.
Barry's like what, 5'10",
5'9".
Barry. Yeah, you really need to take a look at that. Terrell Owens. I think Bo Jackson might have even participated in it. Deion Sanders. It was nice.
This is from 30 years ago.
I think to Soleil's point, though, what I think she's saying, and I agree with, yes, they could dunk, fine. But they're not going to be jumping over cars, and they're not going to be doing the things that we saw in the dunk contest and looking like what we just saw that we're talking about we don't want to see. They may be impressive for being non-basketball players, but is it going to be enough to carry the show? To me, it's like watching a celebrity all-star game. It's
Yeah,
I'll watch it just for like the laughs, but it really was not my cup of tea. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
it could be like a novelty. Maybe they could switch up the criteria for the dunk contest every year. I don't know. Maybe they should do a team competition instead of it being individuals. Maybe it can be a pair of
They did that a few years ago.
where let's just say like you and I are both like on the same dunk team, and then our combined scores we win something. Did they do it like that? Because I don't remember that, but if I'm mistaken, I'm
I
sorry.
know John Wall was in it. John Wall and a few other people were on a team. I remember that. So had to be within the last 10 years. Real quick, James, what's one thing you would change to make it better?
Yeah, I'm gonna say two really quick ones. I promise. One thing is something they did years ago. KD was a part of it. I wouldn't mind seeing them bring back the game of horse. I thought that was pretty interesting. I enjoyed that. I think they only did it 1 year. But the one thing that I would change is, Prince and I talked about this. Do one-on-one tournaments. Do it with the smalls and the bigs. So the ones and twos and the 3, 4s, and 5s compete against each other. Maybe this is where I disagree with Princeton. I think he said then have the winner of the guards play against the winner of the bigs. I don't care for that much because all the bigs are going to do is just take it to the paint, whatever it's going to be, no contest. But I would like to see something like that.
Now, unless you're Wemby.
But he's still a big. He's still a big, and he still can play low. Of course, he can still shoot outside, whatever. But I mean, let's be honest. Wemby versus Cade. I mean, 7'5" versus 6'6". That's not gonna be fun to watch. In my opinion, it's not.
Yeah, for me, I think the change that needs to happen is since they're making so much as it is, they need to incentivize better, like winners, each player on the winning team gets like 10 million, 20 million dollars or whatever to make it enticing for them to get out there and play. I don't know about splitting them up bigs and smalls because the All-Star game is an honor and a privilege that the fans and other people vote on it. So you'll never have an equal amount of smalls and bigs and things like that. So go back to traditional East-West and really incentivize them. And maybe they did this in baseball. Is winner home court for the finals. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's get to our topic. We're going to be talking about advice to our younger selves. And my first question here.
Wait, I thought we were going to do this day.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're on it. We're going to do This Day in History by James.
Cool beans. All right. So it's really quick. Two things that happened on this day. One in 1993 was the World Trade Center bombing. Happened on this day. And in 2012, in Florida, Trayvon Martin was killed on this day. Unfortunately, I don't bring any good news on this day in history, but yeah, that's what I got.
Crazy.
Very dark.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. That's pretty heavy stuff. So let's get to our conversation. So we're going to be looking at, or I'm going to be looking at a couple areas, some personal areas for advice, some career areas for advice, and then personal relationships before we get into our homework that I assigned to both of you earlier. But starting off, what advice would you give your younger self about building self-esteem and confidence? James, let's start with you.
In full transparency, that's tough. That's tough because, to be brutally honest with you, self-esteem is something I struggle with to this day. I guess when I turn 55 or 60 or 75, I have to write that letter. So that letter is in progress on self-esteem. The missus definitely helps a great deal when it comes to self-esteem. So I guess if I was to say anything to my younger self in regards to that, I would say, this is not a journey that you're going to win on your own anytime soon, but you're going to have an amazing life partner that's going to help you through that process. So that's definitely something I would say to my younger self.
Hmm. Um, Follow up to that. So, I mean, just based on your answer, you're saying if you were not married, you probably wouldn't have good self-esteem.
Oh, I don't have great self-esteem being married. The missus definitely helps me out in that area.
Okay,
But yeah, so that's an ongoing pain point for myself.
sure, sure. Eric, how about you? What advice would you give your younger self about building self-esteem and confidence?
He ain't never had no issues with that.
I could tell.
I'll be honest with that. Never has really been an issue
See?
for the most part. No, for the most part, because I've overcame so many things when I was younger, and I guess I could frame it this way: if it wasn't for a great support system when I was younger, especially seeing as how I didn't have my biological mom in my life till my biological mom in my life until later on in life. My grandmother Elizabeth Jackson was very instrumental, even though I was going through like seizures and stuttering problems and things of that nature. She always instilled in me that, hey, you can do whatever it is that you put your mind to. You're just gonna have to work a little harder. She always prepped me. She was like, people are gonna say nasty things about you. People are gonna try to bully you, but always remember who you are. My grandmother would always tell me is that you know yourself better than I know you. And so if I can see all of these great things about you, then you should know the things that I already see in you. So it's always been very instrumental growing up in my childhood. So I definitely appreciate my grandmother. And then my great aunt who took over raising me after my grandma passed, continued those things. Don't let anybody dog you. Don't let anybody stomp over you. And love you. Nobody is gonna love you more than you love yourself. So if you don't love yourself, then you're through.
Yeah,
So that's I guess that's in a nutshell. Is a hopefully it answers both of the questions at once.
thanks. So for me, um, looking back, I was I had narcissistic tendencies growing up. Fake narcissistic tendencies. I thought I was better than other people in sports or academics or whatever. And then I remember getting humbled once at a McDonald's where I walked into the McDonald's with some high school buddies and I was like, who's better than me? Who's better than me? Like braggadocious. And one of the guys on 6 Mile approached me and he's like, I'm better than you. And he got in my face and he humbled me and put me in my place. So I would tell my younger self to build authentic self esteem by just truly being yourself and not being somebody you're not. Um, Trying to pretend to be something you're not is only going to humble you, is only going to get you in trouble. If you're not about that life, don't be about that life. Don't portray that life. Um, and people will gravitate to you because of your authenticity, not because you're perceived to be better than them or whatever. So, how important was it for you to learn to embrace failure and see it as a learning opportunity? Eric, we'll start with you.
Oh man, you know what? It was hard to embrace it. When I think about failure, I think of it as like, damn, I fucked up. Very, very hard on myself when things don't go my way. Especially when I know that I could have done better. When I half-ass did something, and then you failed at something and you didn't realize how much you actually wanted that until you failed. Um, so yeah, it's difficult even to this day for me to embrace failure. I mean, I think I've gotten a little better at it, but no, I'm terrible when it comes to that. I'm super hard on myself.
Was there, when I asked that question and you started answering, was there a specific example that came to mind?
Yeah, actually, just recently, I had got a job that I was really fond of. They let me on a probationary basis, provided that I took care of certain things. I didn't take care of them the way that I should. I didn't follow directions. I got so caught up into like working that time just kind of passed. Normally something like that, I would just be like right up on it, but I'm over here trying to like catch up on things. And the next thing you know, the deadline started to approach. And then I went and I did what they told me to do, but I didn't follow the instructions as far as giving them the information the way they wanted the information. And so because of that, I wind up getting let go because I didn't follow through. And I knew better than that. And it would have only taken a couple of hours out of my day. But the fact is, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I failed myself, and I put my household in an unfavorable position. And actually, I'm more upset about myself that I'm causing other people to work harder, just to cover me. And they hadn't presented it as being a problem, but I feel like that I failed. I put more on them that I should have.
Thanks for sharing. I'll go real quick and then to you, James. So now in hindsight, I see it, as very important. But growing up, I didn't want to fail at anything. I wanted to be perfect at everything. So that goes into the narcissistic tendencies that I had. But failing leads to growth. And so I would remind my younger self of that, that this life, as hard as it is, and you're going to have peaks, you're going to have valleys, ups and downs. And so when you have those downs, no matter how hard they can be, um, you need to be able to translate that into a lesson and an opportunity for something better. So um, that's what I would say now. But sure, when I was a teenager, I didn't want to do anything to disappoint anybody, my teachers, my parents, or my mother, um, my siblings. Like, I just didn't want to be a failure in any way. James?
Yeah, real quick. I think I really didn't experience failure until I got my own household, got out of my parents' house. Because I think looking back on it, I didn't feel this way in the moment. Looking back on it, I feel like I always had a safety net. If I was living with my parents, if I lost my job and I didn't have money to cover my car note, my dad had it. You know, he'll tell me I got to pay him back, but I never really did. So I think I just had that safety net, and as a young person, I think I just took advantage of that. To be honest, you couldn't tell me that in that moment, but looking back, that's who I believe I was. But as far as failure, I'm definitely have always been hard on myself when I feel like I failed. And to your point, Soleil, I never wanted to let loved ones down. And that's disappointing loved ones is the most difficult thing that I have to deal with. When it happens. So definitely very hard on myself.
We'll keep it with you, James. Am I with you? Yes. Okay. We'll keep it with you, James. So, or how did you, or did you ever have to deal with the pressure to fit in? And what would you tell your younger self about staying true to yourself?
Mm. I most definitely struggle with that. Growing up, I, as you all know, and listeners who don't know me, I grew up in the city of Detroit. Um, I'm turning 50 years old this year, and so I grew up going to school in the 80s. Elementary school years, and at that time it was primarily black school that I went to. I was the lightest person. I always tell people I went to a 99.5% black school. I was the 0.5%. And my mom was very involved in my life, in my schooling, whereas she would walk me to school, she would catch the bus with me to school. She'll walk me to the school door, so everyone saw my white mother, and so therefore, but they never saw my father, not because he wasn't around, he was at work, but he would come to parent teachers conference after school stuff, but never really during school hours. So all they saw was that I had a white mother, so I was the white boy, so I was the fat white boy. So I definitely had a hard time, difficult time fitting in. What would I tell myself? This too shall pass. Those same people that gave me a hard time at that time, some of them have come to me most recently, and Shay knows this, most recently, and apologized for the treatment from back then. That was very interesting. We reconnected, and they apologized for that treatment. So I was just telling myself this too shall pass, and none of those people will I ever report to. Matter of fact, some of them I may actually hire them for a position one day. So it's all good.
So you can fire them? No, just kidding.
I mean, if it was that easy,
that would be hilarious. Eric, how about you?
Repeat the question. I want to answer it accurately.
Yeah, how did you deal with pressure to fit in, and what would you tell your younger self about staying true to yourself?
Pressure to fit in. Oh man, for probably from the really the 7th grade to maybe like the 9th grade, I felt a lot of pressure. For me, that was like a real odd time. The growing spurts. Broke my leg multiple times in that time frame trying to fit in and play all sports and impress girls, get their attention. There's a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. But you know what I found out is that a lot of times where you think that you're sitting around here, you're trying to like overperform for people actually like you for who you are. I mean, they like you because you don't typically do what other people do. And I found that out. If you be yourself and if you go down your own path, that's going to draw more attention to you, more positive attention than trying to do stuff that everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because I'm guilty of that, where I felt like I was overperforming at growing up. And so by doing that, I isolated myself from a lot of people, and you know didn't have as many close relationships that I thought I did. And then also, I mean, as y'all know, I was hiding something about myself. So, um, people didn't get the authentic me. And so I grew up very braggadocious, but never really allowing people in to who I was. And so I was very secretive and protective in that way. And so I probably wasn't trusted. Nobody's ever said that, but that's, now that I think about it while answering this question, people probably thought I was very secretive or hiding something, which I was. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like I was just very secretive. I could be braggadocious about some things, but I wouldn't let people get close to me. So, yeah, overperforming, I think you're right about that. So I would tell my younger self, like what I said before, just be authentic, and everybody will be attracted to you. And that's what I've learned now. We're
I've got a
gonna,
question. I'm sorry, I didn't
yeah,
mean to interrupt. I got a question, and it's you don't have to get into like personal details, but when did you get that aha moment? Like, no more of this. I'm finna get ready to be me. Was there a particular event or a particular moment in time that just like I need to do this for myself happy, for my own happiness?
yeah. So I was in my 30s. I was married. I was living the American dream. We had just built a house. Um, we wanted kids. We were working on having kids. And I was living a secret life. Um, where um, I mean, she didn't know that at the time I was cross dressing. So I was in the trans community as a cross dresser at times, um, and then it just got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore. Like I'm not a cross dresser. I am trans, and I want to medically transition, and and that meant like transitioning my entire life, like not just one weekend a month or for a couple hours here and there. It meant like 24/7. I'm a woman, um, at work, at home, grocery shopping, movies, brunch, whatever. That's who I am. And so I was fighting with myself, like, can I continue living my lie, which was being married and representing myself as a male? Um, can I continue living that lie, or do I um, come out and start transitioning? And so that was the decision that I made, and I hurt people along the way, but I don't have any regrets um, for that. Things I'm better off. And she's, I don't know what she would say, but I know she's in a happy place in her life. So
Well, hey, yeah, thank you for sharing something so personal.
no problem. I want to sort of switch now. Let's talk about career advice. What is the most valuable career lesson you learned early on that you would share with your younger self? I'll go first on this one. So, for those of you who don't know, watching the show, um, I wanted to be a doctor. I was in pre med in middle school, high school, and went to college for medicine. And and then that didn't work out because I couldn't pass uh, college chemistry and biology and statistics and all those things. Um, and then later on, my career journey involved a grocery store. It involved a travel agency. It involved an energy company. Um, then Google, then Ford Motor Company, and where I'm at currently. And so my advice to my younger self was there's not a straight line to your career path. You're gonna you're gonna have a number of jobs that have different functions that don't make any sense, but when you find the job you do love, you're going to realize how all of those jobs prepared you for the one that you really love. So um, if you go to college for one thing, don't be dismayed if you get thrown off that track and you go a different way. I went from medicine to psychology. I'm not using either one of those degrees or specializations or as my profession. So it's not a straight line for your career. So just embrace however the path takes you. James, I'll leave
Yeah,
it.
I love this question. Anyone who knows me from back in the day, and both of you do, um, know that James kept a job. You know, James did lots of different things, but James kept a job. You know, I remember the days like you all do, where you go in for an interview and you come out with a job on the spot, right? You know, that was James all the time. James will quit on Friday and he's working somewhere on Monday. You know, so that's who I was. And just like you, Soleil, it was some of everything: video game store, grocery store, fast food, newspapers, a warehouse. It was some of everything. security, uh, delivery, some of everything. And what it came down to is I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. Even when I grew up, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Um, Hence why college didn't make sense for me. A lot of people were surprised, like, why aren't you in why aren't you in college? So I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to study. Okay, I'm gonna become a police officer. Why? Because that's a career that I can do, and I didn't have to go to college to do. I didn't have to go to college to get into the career. So, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, things didn't work out. Whatever. Move on to the next thing. Until one day I found recruiting. And what I would say to myself is, got started, James. Did you hear what Soleil just said to Soleil? That's what you need to listen to. It's no straight line. That's a perfect way to look at it, and that's so true because there was nothing in my past that ever led to or looked like I was going to become a recruiter. And I've been in the field for over 15 years now. And I absolutely love it. So, in my current organization for nearly 8 years. So it's a beautiful thing, and I love it. And that's the only thing I can think of to say to my younger self.
Eric, what valuable career lesson would you share with your younger self?
You know what? Over chasing money can lead to a lot of stress. I've taken promotions, I've taken certain jobs just for the money. And one thing that I can tell my younger self is that, you know what, sometimes the extra money just isn't worth it. Work-life balance, being able to, spend time with your kids when you want to. That's when it like really hit me when my kids started going to school and having events, and I would wind up missing it because I'm running a store. If you're in management, if you're short, well, guess what? You're that fill in for that short spot. Um, when the two youngest kids were, growing up and having all of their first events, I missed Jordan's first steps. I missed Eric's first words. Those things you can't put a price on it. And my be there for those once in a lifetime life events, especially with your children, because you're not gonna be able to duplicate those. You may catch them with the other kids, but if you miss that one particular one, it's like a gut punch. And there are certain events that I regret um, missing to this day.
Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, you don't get those opportunities again. So that sticks with you. I'm sorry you had to miss those events. The next question would be, did you face any significant career crossroads you wish you had made a different decision? And I would say if you don't, then share a decision that you did make that you don't regret that turned out well. So I'll leave this one off. So I don't have any regrets in my career decisions. Looking back, all of them sort of prepared the way to get to the next step. But one decision that really has transformed my life was when I was living in Indiana in 2012. I was working at the energy company. I was doing some web development work at the time. And for those of you who don't know, I'm also from Detroit. And so I was recruited um, by a contract company that does business with Google in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And so they recruited me. They brought me in for an interview. I came up, drove 5 hours, did the interview, and then they offered me the job and said, "But you have to be here in 2 weeks." I tried to get 3 weeks and 4 weeks. Nope, you got to be here in 2 weeks. And so I took the job. I was going to live with my brother. Um, Someone in my life at the time told me that my name was in the newspaper and that the state had owed me money. And so I called the number and I found out that the state owed me $3,000. so there was the moving costs for me to move, and so I was able to move back. I didn't really even understand what the job was, even though I was like doing web development at the time. I didn't know what um, uh, pay per click or SEM was, and so I learned all that stuff at Google. Hey, P. Will, yes, the red hair.
Hey, P. Will.
And so that's where I learned what I do now. So I've been in the same type of industry for the last 13 years, and so there's no regret with making that decision. It literally changed my life and allowed me to um, get to where I am right now. James, are there
You know,
any regrets or any significant career crossroads where you wish you made a different decision or a good decision?
yeah, only regret I have really is just not getting in my career sooner. But I don't have control over that, so it doesn't keep me up at night. But I wish I would have gotten into my career a lot sooner. Um, you know, definitely.
Eric?
With me, I'll be real quick. I really don't have any regrets. I wish that I would have retooled sooner. While I don't have a college degree, I do have some college, and I also have a ton of certifications. I wish I would have did that sooner. Investing in myself.
Hmm. Okay, awesome. All right, we'll do one more question before we get to our homework assignment. So, question will be when you think about your younger self and the legacy you want to leave behind, um, let's see, scratch that. Yeah, when you think about your younger self, what do you think about when you think about your younger self and the legacy you want to leave behind?
When I think about my younger self, what legacy that you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised that I'm even a dad. I didn't have my first biological children until I was like 30. The other two, I love them to death. Those are my bonus children. I did, like I said, I never thought that I was going to actually be a biological dad. You know what? Again, be there for those important events. That's the legacy that I would like to have left. That I was there for every important moment. I was there for all of the major moments, but like those milestones to like a parent witnessing their child do certain stuff. Be there for them. First day of school, graduation, proms, their first jobs, their first kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to be that cool. I want to be that cool, like OG grandpa that just give kids money and be like, you can do whatever it is that you want. And when you go to your parents, they'll probably call and cuss me out. But I want to be. That's the legacy that I want to leave. That he was there for all of the major stuff, and he tried the best he could to better our lives.
Hmm. P. Will says he would like to leave this world better than how he found it. James?
You know, um, I would just like to leave this world knowing that I had an impact on Princeton's life primarily. Um, I was able to really see a lot of my dad's teachings, what he meant by it once I got older, not while I was going through the teachings. And I hope that Princeton would be able to do the same thing. It doesn't matter when he has the aha moment, when he sees this is what James meant, this is what, whatever. It doesn't matter when it happens, just as long as he's able to at some point get it. To know that things that I taught him came from a loving place, so that's definitely what is important to me.
Hmm. So for me, I think it's definitely different than when I was younger. To Eric's point, I wanted kids. I wanted 12 kids. To be honest with you, I didn't know how expensive that would be, but I wanted 12 kids, and here I am. I have 0. But I have kids in other ways. I'll just say that. So I would say even to my younger self that even answering that question, your legacy, what you thought you would do at 9, 10, teenager, may not be what you're going to do as an adult. And I never would have envisioned the life that I live now. I just didn't think it would be possible. And that I'm very grateful for it. And it's blowing my mind every day that I get to live my life. So um, yeah, it's interesting that what we thought we would do or could do differs from what we're actually doing. All right, so those are all the questions. I gave the guys on the panel a homework assignment last week. I did this a few years ago. I spent my birthday in Atlanta, Georgia, 4 years ago, and I wrote myself a series of letters. I wrote myself a letter to my younger self, a letter to my present self at that time, and a letter to my mother. Actually, there was 4 letters. A letter to my mother in the way that I thought she would respond to me, and a letter to my mother in the way that I wanted her to respond to me. But for this exercise, I just gave the guys an assignment to write a letter to your younger self. So we're going to do that right now. James is going to kick us off. No comments. Just let it flow. James, you first. Eric, and then myself. I'll go last, and then we'll comment on it at the end.
Okay. All right. Dear younger me, first take a deep breath. I know life feels like a whirlwind right now, full of expectations, doubts, and moments where you wonder if you're on the right path. But let me tell you this: you are stronger than you realize, wiser than you give yourself credit for, and more capable than you can imagine. You will make mistakes, some small, some big, but don't be afraid of them. Each one will shape you, teach you, guide you toward becoming the person you're meant to be. Forgive yourself quickly, learn from your missteps, and move forward with grace. Stop being so hard on yourself. Perfection is a myth, and chasing it will only exhaust you. Instead, embrace growth. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. You are enough, just as you are. One day you'll meet Shay, a great woman who will love you, not just for your strengths, but through all of your flaws. She will see you for who you truly are and stand by you through life's ups and downs. Love her back with that same deep and unwavering loyalty. She is one of the best things that will ever happen to you. I have to tell you something hard. You will lose your parents. I know that's not easy to hear, but it's important. Love them while they are here. Call them more. Spend time with them. Cherish every moment because one day those moments will be memories you hold on to forever. You will finish school, but in your own time. Don't let anyone else's timeline define your success. Keep pushing forward at your own pace and trust that you will get there when the time is right. And most importantly, you'll be successful in life. All the struggles, the doubts, the late nights wondering if you're good enough, they will be all worth it. Your hard work, your resilience, and your determination will take you exactly where you need to be. So keep going, keep believing, and always remember, you got this. With love and wisdom, your future self.
Man, I don't want to go behind him. I want to go behind him. James, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. But I will though. But I don't want to go behind. Don't don't ever send me behind James again. Okay, we should just have an episode for him for himself. But no, that was beautiful. That really was. I know Soleil. I can see her trying to fight back them tears. I
I
see
don't
it through
cry. I don't
time.
cry over no man.
But let me go ahead and I do mine. So the letter that I would send, to my younger self is a series of apologies. I owe myself an apology for all of the stuff that I have accepted in allowing other peoples to mistreat me, knowing that I deserve better. I owe myself an apology for not being able to stand up for myself during times where I knew that I was being taken advantage of. I owe myself an apology for not pursuing my dreams just as hard the way that I helped other people pursue their dreams. I owe myself an apology for not taking obvious advice from individuals that loved and cared for me because I loved and cared for somebody else. I owe myself an apology for loving certain people more than I loved myself. I owe myself an apology for not listening to my parents when they tried to teach me an easier way to do things. I owe myself an apology thinking that I was way smarter than I actually was. I owe myself an apology for missing key moments of my kids' lives that I'll never get back. I owe myself an apology for not spending time with my parents when they were here and I could have. I also owe myself um, an apology for just the way that I mistreated people when I needed help. I owe myself an apology for having the world's greatest friends and not realizing it until I almost lost them. And most of all, I owe myself an apology because at this very moment, I've discovered just how blessed and fortunate I am.
Thanks for sharing. Dear Soleil, you may not know this while you're busy playing Nintendo, but you are going to change lives. Yes, you. I know you think you want to be a doctor and clone the first human, but you're going to do something more impressive. Your life will be filled with heartbreaks, severe lows, and monumental highs. The tears you cried yourself to sleep at 4 years old will be replaced with tears of joy when you discover and accept your true purpose. When you wanted to be a doctor, there was a blueprint. Finish pre-med in middle school, finish histology in his high school, health sciences in college, and then medical school. What you will actually do has no set blueprint. You will be alone. You will be deserted by those who told you they loved you. People will not understand, and sometimes you won't understand. You will want to give up, but this is all a part of the process. You will discover you are braver than you ever knew. What you do after, oh, what you did after school before your mom came home from work will be laid bare for all to see, but you will not be ashamed. Your visibility will give you purpose and strengthen those who need to see your example. Your example will be life giving. Don't give up. You're on the verge of more than you can conceive. The world needs you. You need to be heard. Sincerely yours, Soleil. Thanks, y'all, for sharing those. I think we all had different approaches to that. When I wrote my letter, this was a new letter. When I did this exercise in Atlanta 4 years ago, I was maybe 4 years into my transition. So the tone of it was very different. And now here I am 4 years later, and the tone is a little bit different. But how did y'all feel about that? How did you feel actually writing it and now being vulnerable reading it on the podcast?
I'll start. It was similar to when we did the Meet series, like Meet James, Meet Eric. I think we did one with you too, didn't we? Meet Soleil, Being Soleil. You kind of don't realize the things that you've actually overcame until you actually speak them or write them down. A lot of times we kind of are really hard on ourselves for the things that we didn't do, but just listening to the two of you guys, it's overcoming and triumphing and being able to do things that you didn't believe that you were able to do, or maybe you were just surprised that you did it. You just kind of had that mindset. Um, it made me take a step back, and it made me realize a lot of areas that I definitely could have did better. But it also made me realize how many things that I've accomplished too. You know, how many events that I were there for. You know, as much as you want to be there for everything and be all things to many different people, have to accept the fact that you're human and accept the fact that you are a better person. I'm just going to end it with this. I think a lot of times that we're harder on ourselves than other people are harder on us. And that's why, you know what, James, that you're in a very, fortunate position where you have somebody who sees all of the things that you do. We all, and same thing with you, Slade, we all do a lot of big things, and it's easy for us to appreciate the big things, but our support system appreciate those small things. That smile that, you may give Shay when Shay may not be quite feeling herself, and it boosts her up. So like how people can tell you that they're like so proud, of how you like stood up for yourself and believe, hey, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to represent myself. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage to be able to push forward when people are trying to push you back. And you're gonna
James?
stop doing this too, man,
Oh,
because I'm about to get ready to cry. So you're gonna stop doing this. So like, I hate when you moderate.
Yeah, for me, it was effortless to write, to put thoughts to paper, because it's my story, right? So it was effortless to write. How did I feel sharing? You know, I feel very comfortable being open, on this format. I feel very comfortable being open to you two, and to anyone that's in my circle. Now, I hope that my openness just allows people to understand a little bit more on who James is. So it's easy to do that. And I did tell Shay that it was going to be a tough read. Today is the eve of my mom would have been 70th birthday. Her birthday is tomorrow. So it definitely touched on a lot of emotions. For me. So thanks for challenging, me personally, Soleil, to do that. It's something I thought about for a long time and never really did. So thank you for that.
no, thank you both. Great show. Um, who was it? Eric
Yeah.
spitballing?
Yes. Uh so recently there's been a lot of near tragedies or tragedies concerning air travel. And it's got me deeply concerned that a lot of these companies are so money hungry that they bypass safety and maintenance. Um, and the only thing that I can really say is that while the government is busy trying to like cut cost and do all of these other things, what about our safety? Is the bottom dollar that important where you're going to risk hundreds of people dying over the last like 3 weeks? There's been a couple of crashes and a couple of near crashes, and I believe it was yesterday or maybe the day before that a private jet and a commercial jet almost crashed into each other. What's the world coming to when we value money more than we value a human life? Uh, so to me, it's just like very disturbing. When you jump on a plane, you're either going for a vacation or sometimes it's like a sad, somber, but you going to a funeral. We've got to do better. We've got to put more value on human lives than we do on the almighty dollar. And that's just not for the commercial industry, but that's just society in general. So that's pretty much what was on my mind. And thank you guys for listening.
Very true. You're on mute, James.
Yep. I just said awesome show. Very true what you said, Slay. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. It's been from our mouths to your ears. And we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Title to be announced. Oh, James.
All right. Just bounce.
You're about to have us crying. You know that, don't you?
Well, that's what I try to do.